The topic for today's video: if you lost all of your plugins tomorrow, which 5 would have the biggest impact on your workflow and on you producing the music that you want to make or that you presently or currently do make? If you leave a comment, be sure that you start with your DAW, because in many ways, we're picking or choosing plugins that help our workflow, that supplements what we can do in the DAW, because there are no must-haves, there are no needs. It's very doable to make, especially with these modern DAWs, to make pretty much any style of music you want to make in there without needing additional plugins. But plugins do a lot to help aid us and to further our goals to get the sound and the end result that we want. So we're going to jump into Bitwig Studio, which is my DAW of choice, and then talk about those 5 plugins and why it would hurt me so much if I lost them tomorrow. Let's do it. We're going to go through this list from most impactful to least impactful, but to be honest, Scalar stands a whole nother tier above. And what Scalar allows you to do is to take music theory knowledge and apply it to composition and do it in so many different ways. So here we have Scalar. It's not doing anything yet. And we actually have a lot of really nice sounds, which is also kind of cool. I have used that felt piano sound before. So let's pick something different. Let's go to like Persian mode 4. I'm going to pick F sharp. I'm just picking this at random. Now I'm going to go into key lock and I'm going to choose to scale white keys. So now when I play my C key, we can see that it's playing this F sharp. So I'm playing a C2. Would I be able to play whatever those notes are easily and remember it? No. But with Scalar, I'm able to do that. So if I was writing in a melody or something and I already had chords set up, I would be able to just go in there and, something like that. But we can obviously take this so many steps further. We have the ability to go down and to listen to the triads, and some of these are going to sound wild. And again, it's going to lock it in from C2 up to B. And we could come up with a progression like that, but we can take this further. So right now it's just playing the triads, but I could also pick some voicings. That's adding a bass note. Let's try second voicing. You can see it's added on a couple more chords for us. And then what we can do is we can even create our own patterns. So like we could say, okay, let's go 1, and this is going to be weird because, okay, let's go 1, 6, 3, 5. Okay, let's see what that sounds like. Kind of wild. But then we could go in here and we could edit these and we could actually change the inversions for these different ones. And one of the things you can do when you're looking at this is you can see, whoa, okay, so when I play that D, like I want to bring some of these notes down to bring it closer together. Cool. That's in the right place. And this one, we also might want to play around with, give ourselves a little more separation between those notes so it's not quite as jarring. So now when we play this progression, now we can take this even further because we can go into these performance modes, for example. So let's go into one of our performance modes. We'll just leave what it is right now. So I'm going to play our first note. And obviously these are syncing to our tempo, so let's bring it down. We have all sorts of different options that we can pick. And it seems like this is cheating, and it honestly kind of feels like that, but it's just a really cool way to come up with new ideas, especially if you get stumped somewhere along the way, or like you're trying to write in a bass part. This has the ability for you to do bass as well. I haven't really experimented much with anything other than performances, to be honest. But you can also go into more of a standard arpeggiated pattern. And then when you really got something that you like and you want to be able to adjust each individual note, you have the ability to do that as well with another like instrument track, for example. Just make sure everything is sounding good. Okay, so we have those notes like so, and then when I want to record the actual end result of this, I just go in here and set it up accordingly. And let's see what we get. And now after it's recorded, you could see the end result. And now this has actually put us into our scale. These are actually the notes that Scalar was spitting out. And then I could go a step further and I could do things like editing these notes in a variety of ways with velocities, with quantize and swing, etc., put on the actual instrument that we want to use with this, and we're off to the races. So very powerful for just, writing very quickly on the fly, trying new ideas, trying some of those presets. And then there's no reason why you have to be stuck with this. You can change the notes that are playing and things like that. So very powerful. One other really good use of Scalar is if you are a fan of MIDI packs and MIDI harmonies, you have the ability to bring those chords into Scalar and then, rearrange them or come up with different ideas based on what you have as just a very basic loop. So we can hit the detect button here, hit record, and it's going to bring in these various chords for us. Now that we've detected these chords, we now could, experiment around and create patterns and things. But also, we now just have the ability to play these in a different rhythm or a different pattern. Right? Things like that, unless you're a keyboard whiz, you just may not be able to do that. So Scalar is a really valuable tool to me, and I could, of course, program all the stuff myself, and I could work on the keyboard. It's just going to take me forever, and I'm not going to have the same amount of speed or really just interest and enthusiasm that I'm able to get with something like Scalar. That plugin goes way further, it goes way deeper, and I encourage you, if it's something of interest to you, to seek it out and to really learn all of the ins and outs of it, because for me anyway, it has made my life just so much easier. There's no plugin that's even come close to keeping me interested and having fun with writing music as Scalar has. Next on the list is Track Limit, a small little plugin, but it definitely packs a punch, and it's so easy to gain stage. And I use limiters a lot in my productions, not just at the start, not just at the end of a chain, but at, random points at times. And so being able to do that really does make a big difference for me. It's the fastest limiter I've ever worked with, and it still has tons of variety. Gain link is the critical control for me. I turn that on to set the degree of limiting, turn it off to do the gain staging. So here we go. I'm going to go right to the threshold of distortion so that we can then hear the different modes. And from listening to that, I actually think I like smooth the best. Then I'll turn the gain link off. And gain match this thing and play with the release control. And around 200, I think, is where it usually does actually just sound really good. We can see how close we are. I think this is peaking out around -6. And yeah, we could still bring this up a few. Okay, and there's your track limit. Obviously, it's not just something you use on drums. You can use it anywhere and everywhere. Definitely a big fan of working with this one, and it would hurt if I lost it for sure. Next on the list is an instrument, and it's Analog Lab 4. This is the instrument I use when I get stuck, and that's why it's on the list. So if I can't either make the sound myself, I'm not sure what the next sound is that I need for something, this will be the first instrument that I pull up, because it gives me the ability to go to presets and sort them by type and by style. So for example, if I'm like, ooh, I need a short bass, I have over 167 options to find something. And I also like the fact that it has such a wide range of timbres. So it's not all just like heavy analog stuff. There also is like the digital stuff that comes through from pigments. So that is also very valuable to me. It has strings, it has pianos. So it has pretty much everything that I could ever want. And when I get stuck, this is where I go. This isn't my favorite synthesizer, but it's a very useful one for me and something that helps me out a lot. So here's an example where we've gone bass, digital, short. I have 24 options, and odds are in those 24 options, I'm going to be able to find something that I want. Let's try house pluck. And typically what I will do then is sometimes you don't have what you want to edit down here. And if I don't have what I want to edit down here, I never go in and edit the instrument because it just takes too much time for me. I'm going to try to find a different preset. As crazy as that sounds, that's the way I tend to work with it. But what I'll do is I'll usually just turn off the effects. Maybe experiment with that one. But typically what I find is with just these few controls, and it's usually just these 8 up here, or is this 10 actually? Oh my gosh, I can't count. I think it's 10. I'm able to find exactly what I'm looking for, and I can dial in the sound from there. Like I said before, it's not like my favorite synthesizer, but it's the one that I go to in a pinch because it gets me the results I want, and it usually can do it in under a couple minutes. So that's very valuable to me. I'm not a huge fan of the Bitwig Studio Reverb, so that's why for me, this plugin makes the list as one I would really hate to lose. This is Megaverb. The reason it's on the list is that I find that on virtually any source material, I can find a good setting for it in 1.5 to 2 minutes. So it can go very quickly. It has pretty much everything I want it to have without getting bogged down in too many features. So we have here a guitar sound with some bass guitar too. And this is the sort of signal that would worry me about trying to like find a good sounding reverb for. I don't really know if I'd put reverb on something like this, but that's the reason why we're going to do it. So we can hear what we can do and how quick we can kind of set it up. So let's go for it. So there's an example of me setting up this reverb in pretty quick amount of time. And we have some cool features like built-in ducking so that when those main bass guitar notes are hitting and stuff, the reverb gets out of the way and then it kind of fills in the gaps in between, and you have filters and distortion effects, which sometimes aren't super flattering, so you got to be careful with that. And then we have the ability to do stuff with the bass width and, you know, all of these sorts of things that just make it a really flexible reverb. And at the end of the day, you just have 4 different modes to choose between. We can set a pre-delay that's tempo synced. It's a lot of the features that I want in a reverb, and to have them all so easy and manageable makes a big difference. So one more time, we'll take a listen. And the final plugin we're looking at is Satin. And this is a plugin that my DAW just can't really replicate. This thing can turn from a heavy exciter to a gluer to, you know, subtle tone to a flanger to a tape delay to even like a soft clipper. It can do all of these things and it always sounds pretty good. The presets are manageable. They're easy to work with. So it's a great plugin where if you want to dive deep, you can. I very rarely do. But we'll do a few examples with it and call it a day. So here we have a little synth loop. Let's go into the presets first, and let's just listen to a couple of the flanger presets before we go to the delay. I like that one. Then I usually EQ out some of the, you know, actual tubiness that comes through. But these all sound pretty good to me. Because a lot of times the problem you have with flangers is that they have such like a digital, artificial, harsh kind of sound to them. So having a flanger inside a tape machine where you could then go in and further shape some of the sounds and ways the tape is working is great. Or you could just drive the tape in harder. All of those sorts of things are possible here. Let's check out some of the delays. Some of these are wild. That's good. Simple, to the point. And the crazy thing is, you hear that we actually have saved gain, at least on the peak level. So with this turned off, it's peaking out at around -11. With this turned on, it's at around -13. So let's leave this on. Let's look at the drums next. So maybe we'll look for some kind of an exciter type thing. That's pretty good just on the very first one. I'm seeing if there's anything else interesting to look at here. And here's with our preset. We haven't really touched the preset at all. So let's just see if we've actually, again, saved ourselves any peak gain. Yeah, a little bit. Actually bring this at least to 0, maybe even give it about 1 dB. Let's look and see if we want to play with the head bump anymore. It's already done some stuff, so I think I'm going to leave it alone. So there you go. And then finally on the group, I'm going to bring in another version of Satin, and I'm going to use the sweet spot preset, which this is maybe the main reason why this is making the list. If I didn't have access to the sweet spot preset, I'd be a very sad camper. It's something I rely on a lot of times. So let's bring that in. What I'll always do after I bring on the sweet spot one is I'll choose between vintage and modern. And in this case, I think the modern sounds a little bit better. And this one's actually just about perfectly gain matched. So here we go. So that is a look at Satin. My list is really varied, as you could see there. And of course, there's other very important plugins that I wouldn't want to lose, but those would be the 5 that would probably hurt me the most based on how I make my music and the sorts of things that I know I can accomplish just with what's built into my DAW, and what I can't accomplish or what's very difficult to accomplish. Definitely looking forward to looking at some other people's lists. And yeah, have a wonderful day. Take care.